Welcome everyone, today we have a new guide for Path of Exile. Now looking behind me, I'll be demonstrating a number of boss fights and also Uber fights and also tier 17 fights with different variations of bosses and also face tanking them. Yes, so here I have got really sick of my squishy Deadeye and I wanted to make a build that is tanky. So I have been playing the game quite often lately to trade the game to save up currencies and wanting to make a build that allows me to try all the mechanics and also all the strong bosses like this one with Uber Shaper and the Elder over here. And as you guys can see, we deal decent damage and we're extremely tanky. And altogether I was only level 80 and also level 81 and I tried all the content that allows me to pretty much tank everything and do all the content in the game. So I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. Yes, there were times I was coming close to dying, but this build is extremely tanky, extremely easy, and really fun to play. So I'll try to demonstrate to you guys a little bit over here. So here I was fighting an Uber fight with the Cortex, with multiple monsters and also tons of damage, and I was just standing in front of them and face tanking everything that's there. And as long as I can life leech my energy shield on my shield, I'm pretty much unkillable. And really loving the build, able to try all the content that's available in the game. And here is another demonstration with the tier 17 boss. As again you can see guys, we're very tanky, very durable, and we deal some very hefty damage. So what I want to do in this video is, I want to showcase this particular build with you guys, and you can see during the time of the recording I was only level 81 and this is a tier 17 juiced up map. So what I want to do is, I want to showcase this particular build with you guys, and together with the skill rotations, with a combination of items, abilities, and also how you can become super tanky with a budget build. So if you look behind me, you can see that I have written some notes with the highlights of the stats of the build, and together with a priority of the gears and also the cost of acquiring those particular items. Because this is not going to be a cheap build, we're expecting to be at least 200 divine invested in the build. And you can see there's a variety of items we can look for, include unique items together with particular jewels, gems, and even tattoos, which give us tons of survivability and also even more damage. So this particular build guide will be broken down into 3 different parts. The first part will go through the stats and also how the build functions. The second part will go through how to acquire the build and what is going to be a budget setup, this is my current setup, and what is going to be a stronger setup, because I am learning this build from Tuna on YouTube, and he does have a much stronger but much more expensive setup for this particular Trickster. And finally, I'll go through some additional tips and also advices for this particular build after testing this out, and also what are the ways you can deal more damage using different skills, abilities, and what are the stats you should be looking for in different stages of this particular build. Now at the end of the video, I'll also provide you guys with the raid plays I'm demonstrating over here, including a full tier 17 run with only level 81 character of the Trickster, and also fights between variety of bosses and also Uber bosses. Now before we jump into my guide, I want to say a big thank you and also shout out to Tuna over here. I have been learning from Coaching Tuna for this particular Trickster build after my guildmates and also my friends told me about it, because I was looking for a tanky build and I'm quite new to Path of Exile myself, so I have been saving the currencies. So a big thank you to him, and if you do want to learn the details and also his particular guide, I'll have the links available for you to learn from him. So over here, how does that build work? So here are some of the highlights to my defensive stats. If you come over to my character, I just managed to go over 16,000 shield. I'll teach you guys how to get this higher shield with a budget setup. So you can see that we have tons of evasion, over 90% dodge rate, and together with 100% spell suppression at 63%, and also over 100% elemental avoidment. Now because of the skills and also passives, we're also immune to chaos damage and also have 75% all resistance coming from using the mage blood with a particular belt and also potions. So our major source of damage will be coming from this particular 6-link chest, and we'll be using Splitting Steel, which is gonna be a projectile that does tons of damage while we have full life. Because we're sitting on 1 life, we're pretty much full life all the time. we'll be getting additional damage support for this particular spell and also additional lightning penetration. Now because we're using a projectile, we'll be using the Nemesis ring to give us the most damage as we shoot projectiles outside, and this will bounce back to you. And this will allow us to deal tons of damage with additional projectile damage. We are dealing lightning damage, and this particular sword allows us to have tons of lightning damage together with maximum energy shield. Now because we're lightning damage based, we also have lightning damage as lucky hit, and this allows us to roll twice on the lightning damage, which takes a higher base of the lightning damage rolls. Now over here we also use the mirror ring, which allows us to have more damage with curses, more intelligence, and this can be corrupted into additional aura effect for grace or other effects. Now of course guys, we're using the mage blood over here, and the mage blood allows us to have tons of effect. Look how fast I move, and without the mage blood I'm actually a little turtle. So yes, this is a really fun build using the mage blood, and you can see my resistance is actually coming from the mage blood and also the flux over here. So without mage blood, none of my gear actually works, and mage blood also gives me tons of stats, resistance and also utility together with damage. Now finally, we're using this particular shield, which gives us additional movement speed, intelligence, energy shield, and also resistance, together with invulnerability to curses and also increased effect of curses. We'll be using a lot of items that provide us with higher energy shield, and this will of course be the major focus as we gain additional elemental avoidment, additional abilities to have higher mana reservation with spells, and also additional effect while having focus. Together with scaling towards damage with high intelligence, you can see this particular gloves is giving me 4% increased damage per 100 intelligence, and I'm close to 900 intelligence. And also this chest is crafted with additional intelligence and also less damage taken while having 220 intelligence per 1% damage taken. So yes guys, the focus of the build is to make ourselves extremely tanky while dealing tons of damage. And because we have so much energy shield leech and also mana leech, we're also running tons of arrows to give us even more damage and also more survivability. Now on top of the brief summary of the gears we're using, we're also using a number of jewels, sockets and also gems. Together with the ability to tattoo some of the skill passives to give us even high energy shield, this build has a really high ceiling and can be extremely powerful to deal even more damage. But instead of overwhelming you guys by going through all the jewels and also all the tattoos, let's come over to the nodes and let's focus on how you can start this build with a budget setup. Now in the future, if you guys are rich enough, you can of course follow Tuna's more advanced setup, which deals even more damage and also is even more tankier with higher effective HP. So coming over to our nodes and also the second part over here, if you guys want to start the build, I strongly recommend having enough currency to save up for 1 mage blood and also 1 nemesis ring. So those items are currently around 110 divines for the nemesis ring. You do want to find the one with higher projectile damage if you can, because we do not scale our damage and also most of our abilities do not scale with dexterity. So the cheaper ones is about 110, 120. And also for the mage blood, you want to find the one with 4 magic utility flask that is used, and this is quite important. So together, you're looking at least 200 divines to get started for this particular build. Now during this time, a small tip to save some currencies as you find your potions. Because we're looking for potions, if you have a look at the potion, we're looking at potions with the 70% increase effect and gains no charge for the mage blood. It can be quite costly to buy those potions. And because of this, I recommend finding potions yourself or crafting this yourself or even buying the base version of the potion and then use this particular echoing orb. And this saves me at least 5 to 10 divines because I can do this. So I'll show you guys the crafting. So here I am trying to roll into the increase effect. Notice within 2 rolls I was able to get this crafting done. And for players who doesn't do this and just buy those flasks outright, you'll be costing 1 to 5 divines each. And this way I was buying those for 10 to 20 chaos and crafting those myself for my flask. And as for our final flask with Bottle of Faith, you just have to find the one with a 10% increased damage taken by enemies. you do not need a higher critical strike, because our build does not deal critical strike damage, which we'll touch upon once we get to the weapon. Now once we have the Nemesis Ring and also Mage Blood build, this build is pretty much self-sufficient and you can get started, and this takes around 200 Divine. So here let me show you guys a demonstration of me running through a tier 17 map, and here we only have 6000 shield. And yes, we're still doing the map. We're pretty much unkillable, and yes, I might not do as much damage because the modifiers and also monsters are quite strong, but you are still very tanky and you can still do the tier 17 maps. And you might even die once or twice, but you'll be fine. So just having the 2 core items to start things off will be available for you to try this build out. And during this time, I was about level 80 and I was trying all the contents with only 6000 shield. But of course guys, as we keep going, you're gonna see there's a lot of items that doesn't require this much Divine. So I have broken down the categories of items. So you can be acquiring the amulet and also the ring for about 5, 10, 15, even up to 40 Divines, depends what you're looking for. Now one thing to notice about the moon ring, it is more expensive to get the corrupted version, which comes with increased effect for grace or any auras you're running. But if you're not looking for this particular ring can be even cheaper. Now in order to deal more damage and also have more survivability, getting the sword and also the shield might cost you 30 to 50 Divines each. We're looking for the increased lightning damage on the sword, and this unique sword is corrupted, so we can be having Resolute Technique. And Resolute Technique allows our attack to have cannot be evaded effect, and we do not deal critical strike. So this way we're not looking for any increase of critical strike or critical strike multipliers. And this way we also don't have to get any accuracy because we don't need any dexterity and we're not running any accuracies or critical strike chances. Now as for the final crafted piece with helmet, chest, boots and also gloves, we're looking for items that provide us with the highest energy shield to get started. And preferably we want to have intelligence on those items as well. As you guys go into the advanced crafting, and also if you're not crafting, if you're buying those items, you can see that we have particular implicit stats we're looking for. Now together with the crafted stats, we're looking for mana reservation efficiency on the helmet, together with ability to cast spells while focused. As for the gloves, we'll be getting more rage and also dealing more damage per intelligence, and also crafting the focus with bonus attack speed while under focused, which allows us to deal burst damage. As for the chest, we want the 6-link chest with the additional implicit crafting, and this is also similar for the boots. Now do keep in mind guys, acquiring those items may cost anywhere from 10, 50 or 100 Divine if you're not crafting this one. But if you know how to craft, this can be much cheaper to be crafting those items coming from the base items. So the price can be shrunk to 1/3 or even 20% of the price you can buy on the market. Now because I'm not familiar with crafting, I did buy those gears myself, and each of those gears cost me around 15, 20, 25, up to 30 and also 60 Divine for those items. And I guess this is where my biggest cost of items came from. But as you can see in the videos, most of the time I don't really need that much shield, and we're still dealing very sizable damage. Now that we talk about the gears, the flux, let's briefly going over the jewels and also the tattoos. So in terms of the jewels, you do want 2 to 3 of the correct large cluster jewels, and this might cost anywhere from 6 to 10 Divines each. Now it is very important, and this is something my guildmates actually taught me about, to find the cluster jewel that has the right passives. So here we want the passive to feed the Fury and also passive to the Veteran Defenders. So if you're looking for those, what you want to search for is, you can be searching for something like this, and notice they're costing 10 Divines each, right? So here I'm showing you how to search for the jewels, quite important. And here what I'm doing is, I don't need martial powers. I can unclick this one, and I can start searching. Notice the price dropped to 2 Divine. But it's very important for you to also notice, you want at least 2 of the correct ones. So Feed the Fury, Veteran Defender, and the middle one doesn't have to be the correct one. The middle one can be anything, but as long as the first and also the third one is the correct knot we're looking for, and that's enough. Now, one of the reasons it looks very expensive is because I had intelligence over here. So if I take away intelligence over here, because intelligence is a bonus stat, right? So if I go over here again and we're looking for particular sockets of the jewels, notice that this one is the correct one with lightning resistance, and it only costs 6 divine. So if you're following the two guides exactly, you can see that we're using different jewels. And my jewels is a little different to what Tuna's using, simply because I'm not going with Smite of the Week. And this is also the case. We do not go for this particular node over here. We're just going for those two over here, which is the first and also the third one. And this allows us to have 2 jewel sockets to socket our corrupted jewels. Now, on the topic of socketing jewels, we're using this particular gem or jewel over here, which allows us to amplify the effect of the socketed jewels in the socket which are corrupted. So here you can see those particular blue magical jewels are providing me with 8% maximum energy shield and also some energy shield steal. But if you look closely over here, notice that this is providing me with a lot more multipliers. So it's 19% increased energy shield because I'm getting 138% more effectiveness coming from the Adored Jewel. And this is one of the centerpiece of the build, and this can be a little costly if you don't know what you're looking for. So as a simple summary with Adored Jewel, you're looking for 138% increased effectiveness, which costs around 40 to 55 divine. Then you're looking for 146% or 150%, which can cost over 300 divine. So why are we looking for those particular percentage when this particular jewel, which is the one over here, can roll anywhere from 100 or can roll anywhere from 50 to a 150%? Is that we're looking for the breakpoint for those particular jewels. And the breakpoint allows us to have more incremental increase by percentage on the base stats over here. And this is the reason. And I do recommend trying to get at least 138%. Anywhere between 138 to 146 actually does not make a big difference in terms of power gain or the stats gain to the magical jewels you're amplifying. Now, because I realize I don't need to go through all the thing in too much details, you can see the cost of the other jewels that we're using and also the additional nodes for those. And I have also a price check for most of those. And you can see if you're looking for 8% shield and also 4% attack speed, and in comparison 8% shield with a 5% attack speed, this is a 6 or 8 divine difference. So my budget build, you can see that there are some jewels I'm only using 3%. There's some of those I'm using 5%, some of those I'm using 4%. And this is where the biggest difference of the damage is coming from. But if you look at Tuna's build, he's using ones with even stronger corrupted modifiers, which allows him to deal even more damage. But those ones cost over 200 or even 300 divines each if you're looking for the high-end ones. Now, in terms of the tattoos, we're using 3 journey tattoos of the soul, and those are incredibly powerful. So one of those is coming over here, which we're replacing the 30 intelligence, and this gives me 40 maximum energy shield per allocated of the tattoo. Now over here we have the second one, which is again, now we have 80 maximum energy shield. The final one is actually coming from over here. And this is a very cheap anointed craft that is coming over onto the amulet. Once you craft this one onto the amulet and you tattoo this one, this will give you tons of energy shield. So sitting on close to 13,000 energy shield, after getting those 3, I think I went over to 15,000 energy shield just coming from those 3. Now do keep in mind guys, those particular tattoos are quite expensive. You can pick those up on the market around 30 to 36 divines each. And this is a hefty investment to the later stage of the game. Now finally, let's go through some additional notes, and I realize I'll be spending a lot more time going through the notes. So one highlight with a build is that we're scaling with the damage based on how much energy shield we have. And together with not much need for strength and also dexterity, we're tattooing all of the dexterity node, which is about 17 of those over here, to have increased damage for the marked spells. To have increased effect for the mark spells we have, and we do have the mark spell over here with Sniper's Mark, which allows us to deal more projectile damage. Now we want to stack as much intelligence as we can, because not only abilities energy shield scales with intelligence, it also provides us with more damage and also more damage reduction. Now as we go through the skill rotations, you're gonna see that some of the spells will provide us with even more damage, together with abilities to multi-casting spells, which allows us to deal more damage against the bosses. So coming over to skill rotations. As you guys can see in the demonstration replay over here, against most of the bosses, you can tank most of the mechanics. And this is quite straightforward. Because you are pretty much energy shield leeching and also you're leeching mana instantly at 10%, you're gaining a lot of resource back. And most of the time, yes, you can face tank pretty much everything. Now let's briefly come over to the tier 17 maps. So here what you're looking at is, we're traveling quite fast because we want to speedrun the dungeon of course. And your mobility is coming from the ability to use multiple spells like Flame Dash, like Leap, and also Shield Charge. You are running through the enemies and dealing most of the damage coming from the return projectiles from Splitting Steel. And most of the time guys, I'm just moving and also casting Splitting Steel. And I do not need to worry about pretty much anything, and we deal enough damage to one-shot most things on the map. Now briefly coming over to the boss fights with the tier 17 boss. So here what you're noticing is I am manually casting my focus spells, which allows me to have a burst of damage while I auto cast the buffs and also skills related to it. And together with the ability to cast my smite, which will provide me with a damage increase boost on the boss for 4 or 8 seconds, this provides me with high damage. And of course guys, don't forget to cast Ancestral Protectors so you can gain additional speed boost for your attack speed as you hit the bosses. Now majority of the skill rotation is pretty straightforward. So if you have a look over here, and if you look at my damage stats over here, you can see this is the numbers over here, right? But if I cast my Ancestral Protector, my damage will go up because I gain additional attack speed. And this is also the case as I cast my Focus. And here, while casting Focus, you're debuffing enemies and then providing yourself with additional attack speed coming from the crafting of these particular gloves. Now hopefully you guys found this guide helpful. Because I'm still quite new in learning Path of Exile, I am learning from somebody else, and hopefully in the future I can share more stronger build with you guys and try things out myself. And here what I do is, I'll provide you guys with this entire replay. I do want to show you guys, yes, we can still die. Because we're focused on energy leeching, for the time that you do not energy leech, and you do not leech your energy shield, you can still die. Yes, even though I said this is an unkillable build, there are times you can still die. But do keep in mind guys, during this entire testing replay, I was only level 81 against all the Uber bosses tier 17 endgame content with a level 81 character. So I'm pretty happy with this one. And if you have a look over here, now that I have gotten to level 93, we're pretty much unkillable again, and very tanky and super speedy. Now if you guys find my videos and also guides helpful, and also want to support my passion in making more guides and also more videos for the last epoch and also more games to come like Path of Exile, please consider joining me on Patreon, and also here I have created my Ko-Fi page. You can also support me directly through donations, but supporting me continuously with one of those memberships will mean a lot for my future updated videos and to become financially sustainable so I can be continuing making videos for you guys and doing what I love the most, and that is to share and also teach our communities as I dive into different games and making more guides for you guys. And as you guys gonna see in the future, I'll have different ranks and also perk advantages and also special events and also special features for members like account reviews, perfecting the build for you guys, and also co-op time play, and also even special future videos for you guys on your special build for different members.
Non-existence, everlasting fire.
Just need a moment to catch my breath. Just need a moment to catch my breath. Low on mana.
Gaze into the abyss. Gaze into the abyss. Gaze into the abyss. Embraced by wizard.
This one is my own creation. Light of salvation! Greatclass needs me! Darkness surrounds us!
Cosmos.
I will not rest until this land is cleansed. Perish.
Another day.
Low on mine.
God. Escape. The stars betray us. I have already seen you lose this battle. Belief overwhelms. Forbidden power. Heart render. Aid me. You have broken the circle.